A very brief thank you for the generous contributions of 680 News, Whole Foods, who supplied the delicious food that's going to be made even more delicious today, and of course Food Network. We have a very special guest for you today. I think he needs very little introduction, guessing by the rush of fans at the beginning, but I'll do so anyway. He worked in the kitchen front lines and open restaurants for top chefs Gordon Ramsay and Daniel Boulund. He won title of Youngest Grand Chef in the World at age 27 as executive chef of Five Diamond, Grand Relais, and Chateau Lumiere in Vancouver. He opened his own restaurant Ensemble in May 2010. And of course, you know he's the most recent winner of the widely publicized battle for culinary supremacy on Top Chef Canada. Please join me in welcoming Chef Dale Mackay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. I wasn't expecting this big of a crowd. So today we're going to do a dish that I have on the menu at Ensemble. It's a really kind of simple dish, and it kind of has a bit of a theme to it. It's a southern theme. I love southern food, and Succotash is kind of one of my favorite things to eat. It kind of derived from, I guess, from the 30s. Succotash was basically corn and lima beans, and from there it's kind of been taken lots of different ways, but corn is basically the kind of base. And so today I do a little bit of a twist. I make a corn custard with the natural starches in the corn. So we're going to blend up some corn, kind of mix it up, and then put it on the stove, and eventually it will just naturally kind of get thicker and thicker. And so I use that to bind my succotash. We're also going to incorporate a bunch of spices, because that's one of my absolute favorite things to use is different spice blends, and I've started making all my own spice blends and stuff, so we're going to use some of that. So we're just going to jump right into it and start peeling some corn, and then we're going to just chop it up and throw it right in the blender. This dish I chose because it really is really simple, and you can do pretty much all this stuff at home. And you don't necessarily have to make the custard, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway, just in case you want to try to impress somebody at some point. I don't know if you guys won't be impressed, but we'll see. Maybe I can get someone. Aiden, want to come up here? I didn't bring your chef jacket, but you're going to come peel some corn. Everyone give it up for my son Aiden, who, if you did watch the show, he does do the tours with me, but his chef jacket's in the cleaners. Hurry up, we're on time limit here. So you just start shucking the corn, just peel it all off and make sure we get all those little strings off. All right? Don't screw it up. All right, so I'm just gonna take the kernels off the cob. You could do this with frozen corn, but you're not going to get the same kind of starches as you do from the fresh corn. Plus, the fresh corns, I mean, it's one of the best things of the year. Basically, I kind of wait all year for the corn to come in season. You guys have amazing Ontario corn here. We have amazing BC corn back in Vancouver too. So it's a great product, and it's pretty inexpensive too, which is always nice. I take the cob. I actually keep all the cobs from when we do this at the restaurant, and then I actually make a corn stock, and then I actually I'll cook things, and I'll make the succotash and things like that. I'll blanch things in the actual corn stock, and then you just or make a stock and then make a corn soup later on with it. All right, how's it coming? All right, better hurry up. I need to get your microphone. Yeah. All right, so we just basically kind of need to fill this up just enough to kind of start pulsing it. If I can get it open. This is one of Aiden's favorite and only vegetables he'll really eat is corn. I think it's just because it's sweet. I'm not sure what it is, but if you guys have any questions about anything I'm doing, just put up your hand and I'll do my best to kind of answer as you go, whether it be pertaining to this or to the Top Chef. Hurry up, come on, you're just lagging behind. Have them slow down everything, come on. Keep going, you got a whole bunch there. I don't know what's going on with kids. And then, so from here, we're going to kind of cut up some peppers and stuff, and then we're going to roast off the peppers with kind of like a Mexican spice blend that I've made. And that's how we're going to incorporate the spices. And I think my favorite thing, and especially the last few years, has been learning about spices and making spice blends and understanding spices, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily, when they think of spice, they think of heat, and they don't understand the fact of all the different spices in the world and what all these blends, how these blends come about, and all the work that goes into making all these blends. When you just go to the store and you buy a curry blend, you don't really understand how many different things are in there. If you were watching Top Chef, my curry soup didn't do too well on one of the challenges, and that's one more reason why I've been driving myself to really understand and really put forward some good spice blends. So we're going to just pulse this if it works. Oh, we didn't plug it in.
I believe we have a question, Chef Mackay.
Sure.
Is this a good time? We're right over here.
Dale, I wanted to ask you, I'm over here.
Oh, there you are, okay.
I wanted to ask you how you got picked to be on Top Chef. What was the process?
The process was a long process, thank you. You basically have to make a 5-minute video and kind of show, they want to see kind of your life. You know, I showed me kind of doing some exercise and hanging out with Aiden, and I've been at the restaurant and things like that. And then from there, it goes from there to kind of, they look at your videos and they call you, and I think I did 2 or 3 phone interviews, and then from there you do a demo, and then from there you kind of wait and wait and wait, and eventually you kind of either get the call or you don't get the call. It's one of those things where it's, I guess, like a job interview. They'll say, well, you know, you might hear from us, you might not by this date, and you try to get a date out of them to find out if you should hold your breath any longer. But fortunately for me, I got the call and I was able to do it. So it was exciting. It was one of those things I didn't know if I wanted to do it right off the bat, but then as soon as I decided I wanted to do it, I really wanted to do it, and I was like, you know, hurry up and call. So I'm just going to get this going in the blender. Hopefully we're going to add maybe a little bit of water just to get it going. How's it going there, Buzz? Just push it down with your hand here. Perfect. So as that kind of starts spinning, I'm going to kind of take a little bit for the actual succotash. And when you do this, you want to try to make sure you get the whole kind of kernels. And then we're going to just reserve this for later. When I do the actual saute, the corn and stuff, I don't blanch it or anything. I just take it right from raw. I think I eat the corn raw all the time. Actually, it's my favorite way to eat the corn. So you really just have to put a little bit of heat through it, and then you can really rely on that crunchiness. All right. So as you can see, all we really did was kind of liquefy it, and then I've got a strainer over here. I'm gonna put it right through the strainer, and then kind of push it around. You guys see that? Hopefully I have enough time to make this custard. So you're just kind of using all the juice and all the natural starches, and obviously there's a ton of starch in corn, and that's where obviously cornstarch and everything comes from. And so it's a really nice way of naturally doing it. You don't need to add any other kind of starches to it. It should just naturally kind of thicken up. So I'm going to put this on the stove here and kind of turn up the temperature so we don't run out of time. All right. I think that's good, buddy. Yep. Want to put that in the sink for me? Just put that away. Yeah, just put it there. Thanks. Just put that in the sink on the back. All right, so we've got our kind of corn for our actual succotash, and we're just going to reserve that over on here. And then we're going to start cutting our peppers. You done? Yeah, you go. Everyone give it up for Aiden, please.
We have another chef question right over here, Chef.
Sure.
I was just wondering how old you were when you started cooking, and what's your favorite dish?
When I started cooking, I started cooking basically at a burger place called Red Robin, which was all kind of just deep fried chicken wings and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't go to culinary school or any of that. I kind of just went from place to place to place, and I started working, I guess when I was 18, I started cooking kind of burgers and fries and stuff. And then my thing was I just wanted to go to the better place and to a better place to a better place. And so I always just looked at the next place and then just took that as a challenge. My favorite thing to eat would probably have to be Thai food, or Thai food or pork and sauerkraut are my two favorite things to eat all the time. I can pretty much eat those anytime. And I would say Thai is probably my favorite flavor profile. The lemongrass and the kaffir lime and all those kind of spices and stuff really is my absolute favorite. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So here we're just going to cut up the peppers. I'm not going to be too fancy, as they used to call me on the show, and peel them at the restaurant. Sometimes we will roast them and then peel them, and so you don't have any skin. But really, if you put a good roast on the peppers, you don't really need to do that. So we're just going to roast a bit of red pepper and a bit of green pepper. And I'm going to try to give you some tips of when you cook at home, and I always kind of go through this with my mom at home, and Thanksgiving dinner and all these kind of dinners is my mom's always trying to kind of balance, trying to cook the peas, cook the corn, trying to do all that kind of stuff. When really, if whether it be the day before or earlier that day, if you just cook something 80%, like blanch something and then ice water it and then cool it down. Same as like roasting peppers. We pre-roast the peppers at work. Like, so I'll roast a bunch of peppers with a nice spice mix, and then you get them cooled down quick in the fridge or in ice water or whatever you may need to do. And then really when it comes to actually assembling, it just takes 2 seconds, because all you have to do is just rewarm them. So you're not losing any quality. All you're doing is actually you're gaining the quality, because you have the time to focus on what you're doing, whether it be roasting peppers or blanching asparagus. And so by saving yourself all that hassle, later on it's going to go that much better for you, because all it is just a rewarm, and you can actually enjoy your time while you have people over. So I don't know if you can see, but it really is just naturally totally thickening up right now. It's already kind of pliable. And so really you just got to keep an eye on it, turn down the temperature. I'm going to turn it down to min, and then just kind of let it thicken up. And it's only been on there for maybe 3-4 minutes. It's really, really quite sweet. I've actually done a dessert with a corn custard before, with mascarpone and corn and squash, actually. It was a really savory kind of dessert. Sounds a bit odd, but it was tasty. So actually, I might even just pull that right off and just let it kind of tick away. So we have our red and we have our green peppers here. Any other questions? Hope I'm not boring you guys. These are all pretty...
We do have another question here, Chef.
There we are.
Hello, Chef Dale. I was just wondering, did you go to school to learn your trade?
I didn't actually. I didn't go to school for much of anything. I left school really, really young, and I wouldn't suggest that to anybody out there that's in school right now. But it wasn't really my thing, and I left school when I was just turning 15. And I kind of was, my mom definitely put a strong work ethic in all of us, me and my brothers, but she said, if you're not going to go to school, you got to work. And so I got a job dishwashing, and then basically it so happened that somebody just didn't show up one day online, and so I got online, started deep frying chicken wings and chicken fingers and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, I just tried to keep going, and eventually I moved to, when I was 20 years old, I moved to England to try to get a job for Gordon Ramsay. And he had one restaurant at the time, and I literally kind of got a visa, and I showed up on his doorstep. I got a day trial, and then from that day trial, I got a job, and then I was with him for almost 6 years. And so that's where my kind of schooling, I would say, was under Gordon, and just kicking my butt all the time. That never stops.
We have one more quick question, if that's all right, Chef.
Sure.
Right back here.
So again, a question about the show.
Yep.
There were a couple episodes where you did end up on the bottom. Was there any one particular instance where you thought you were really going to be cut from the show?
Yeah, there was one episode where I wasn't too sure. I think it was the street food challenge, probably. I think that was that when I really kind of didn't know. And then the last time I was on the bottom with Dusty, I didn't know which way it went, which way it was going to go, because Dusty's a very good chef, and they weren't happy with either of our meals that day. So, you know, it's you never really know. But before that, even when I was on the bottom, like with the Milestones challenge and other challenges like that, I wasn't too worried. I just didn't think. I mean, I guess I could have, but I didn't think in my head, okay, well, you're not going to send me home for doing something too nice. So that was pretty much, those two challenges were the ones that I was actually a little bit worried. But I've always got kind of a weird belief in myself that I was going to win the whole way through. So I tried to just stick with that, and I was lucky enough that it worked out. Otherwise, I probably would have looked like a pretty big idiot. And so basically we have our corn here, we have our peppers here, and then I have just some basic bacon. And we're gonna cut it up, and we're gonna get some really nice obviously bacon flavor, and we're also gonna get a good amount of fat out of it, which is gonna be really nice to kind of saute the vegetables in that natural fat rather than using all butter. All right. So we got our corn custard here. I think you guys can see that. See how thick it is now? And I really didn't have to do anything to it at all, and it should be really, really nice and sweet. So we're just heating up our pan here. We're going to start it with a little bit of olive oil. Normally you could start it with the bacon and get it crispy, but I want to get a bit of color on these peppers. I want to give them a nice little roast. So I'm going to let that pan get nice and hot. In the meantime, I'll talk a little bit about sea asparagus. I don't know if anybody here, if you haven't heard of sea asparagus, it's basically, it kind of looks like asparagus. That's where it gets its name from. It's also known as sea beans, and it has a really natural salt to it because it actually grows with seawater and stuff. And so it has a really nice crunch. You don't really have to cook it, so really I just throw it in right at the end and kind of saute it off right at the end. It's got a really nice crunch, and it's kind of an interesting product, and it's super cheap too. So I don't know if the markets here have it or not, but I imagine the seafood places would have it. That's where I get it in Vancouver. So a really nice product there. And then I have some smoked Matsutake mushrooms. Matsutakes are also known as hen of the woods. It's basically kind of comes out in a big bunch like that, and then I kind of peel off the bunches, and then I lightly smoke them for about 1.5 minutes, just over kind of apple wood. And so smoke those, it gives a nice little kind of meaty taste to them. So we have our pan here starting to get nice and hot. Gonna throw in our peppers. Could have been hotter. So start roasting off those peppers. I'm gonna throw in the bacon here. That's gonna slightly kind of crispen up while it's going. Any other questions out there? Boris, you got something? I think there's someone there with a question. All right, so basically you have the red and green peppers here, the bacon. You don't have to worry too much about it. The bacon kind of helps keep moisture going as the fat kind of drips out of the bacon. It's going to keep the peppers going.
Chef, we actually have a accolade for you as opposed to a question about your restaurant.
Hi, I sent my daughter there as a birthday gift because she lives in Vancouver.
Okay.
And she went, unfortunately you were in California.
Oh, okay.
But Kevin did a great job taking care of her, recommending the proper wines.
Great.
She loved the beef carpaccio, the pulled pork, like you did on Top Chef. She also had that chocolate souffle.
Nice.
Yeah, she loved everything. She said it was amazing.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, you know, since we've opened, we've had amazing feedback, and the whole idea behind Ensemble. I've always done fine dining, as you kind of see on the show. That's definitely what I was driven towards, and that's definitely how I was edited to look. And I'm very into kind of higher end food, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be fine dining. I'm just into refined, good flavored and well composed dishes. So at Ensemble, basically, we've kind of pulled back a little bit on the formality of it, and basically I consider it a casual restaurant, and you can come in wearing jeans and a t-shirt, a ball cap. I don't really care. It doesn't make any difference to me as long as you come in and you want to eat. And so basically we're doing refined casual food. And so I have like anything from like a pulled pork sandwich on my menu to a Thai broth to a carpaccio. So I really do use flavors from all over the world, and we try to just make it in a casual atmosphere. So our price point is extremely low for what we're doing, and so it's kind of like a fine dining hybrid where you can go there 3 or 4 times a week. You can sit at the bar or you can sit in the dining room, and it's all medium-sized plates because that's my favorite way to eat is medium-sized plates. When I go to restaurants, sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 appetizers because I'd rather have 3 or 4 experiences rather than one big main course experience, because if you order wrong and you get stuck with a crappy main course, then you're sitting there kind of disappointed and everything else. So I'd rather you be able to have quite a few things, share or not share. So it's been great, and thank you, by the way, for the comments. but it's been a great experience opening it up and seeing the feedback. And I definitely have put a lot of the dishes that I did on Top Chef on the menu because, you know, everybody that watches the show, and me included when I watched kind of the American version, is you want to be able to taste it yourself, because sometimes you don't agree with the judging. You know, you look at it and go, no, that's good, and you don't get to taste it, but you have your own opinions. And so it's really nice when people come in and get to try those dishes they saw on the show. So here I have the peppers and the corn and everything, and I'm just gonna throw the corn right in there. And again, we don't need to cook the corn very much. You just kind of want to give it a little bit of saute here.
We have one more question about
Sure.
your future plans for the restaurant to your right here. Right
There you
here.
are.
Chef, just wondering if you're going to open a restaurant over here, how would you find a local ingredient compared to Vancouver? Because like the sea asparagus,
Yep.
you say it's pretty cheap, but you cannot really find cheap product in here.
Oh, yeah?
I found that in like a farmer's market, but they're quite expensive. So
Oh, yeah?
what's your approach if you're going to open a restaurant over here?
You know, I would love to have a restaurant here if people wanted me to have one. That's for sure. I would love to be out east. I come out here almost every month now for something, and I love it. I mean, now I have friends here and everything, so it's any chance I get to come out here, I do.
I think Weepa would love to have it, that's for sure. I think
Good.
this audience can probably attest to that, right?
Good. You know, the thing is, I do cook primarily fish and shellfish. That's kind of my favorite things to cook. But I think, you know, you just go. I worked in Tokyo for 2 years. I worked in New York for 2 years, and London for a couple of years. And so I've opened up restaurants in quite a few countries and places. And so you start to just adapt yourself to whatever products they have. And so if it's a meat place, you just feature the meats that they're known for. And so I think I would do very much the same here. And I'm actually working on a new concept in a new restaurant. I'm looking, because of the show, watching the show, and being called fancy pants, everything, which I didn't mind. I'd rather be fancy than sloppy. So I wanted to do something. I want to do something totally casual, but still show the fact that I'm looking to do basically a pub, and it's going to be classic pub food, but it's going to be my kind of pub food with a slight twist. So even if it's potato skins, it's going to be my style of potato skins, or if it's wings. And so I'm going to try to go, even no matter where I go, whether it be, you know, a pub or ensemble or fine dining, I still think it can be refined. I don't think casual food has to be rustic, and so that's kind of my next kind of goal. But I would absolutely love to have a restaurant here. I'd have an excuse to come here every 2 weeks. It'd be perfect. All right, so our succotash is there. It looks like our corn custard's totally where we need it to be. I'm going to saute off some of these mushrooms. Our hen of the woods here. Put those there. And then our sea asparagus. Then we have our scallops here. These scallops, I'm working like a bit of a pig here. These scallops are Qualicum Bay scallops, which come from Vancouver Island. They're fantastic, and they're the closest thing to. I used to get all these scallops in Scotland when I lived in England, and they were by far the best scallops I'd ever tasted in my life. And I think these are very close, and they're all hand dove, and they're really consistent all year round products, and I love using them. And they dive 3 times a week and ship 3 times a week, and so you have these amazing scallops that have just been shucked that day, sent to you, and they last for literally days and days and days without even ever having to worry about them even being remotely off. So, I think I've lost my corn stuff.
I think we have one question that might make the chef blush. Is that going to be all right?
Sure.
Front row to the left here.
Good afternoon, Chef.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. Recently, you were named one of the top 10 hottest chefs by Yahoo Canada. I was wondering if we could get a response to that for all the single ladies out here.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I saw that. I got a Google alert as well. I try not to pay too much attention to that kind of stuff. And so, thanks for your question. Here's basically, this is just a cornmeal, a rough cornmeal. I actually am blushing, aren't I? And then we have a curry, which is my curry blend that I did.
The stove is hot. It's just the stove.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's It's getting hot over here. And so we have some cornmeal and some curry, which I actually call Canadian curry because I've taken the blend instead of just doing. I think a lot of the time when you buy curry mixes and stuff, that it's when you put it on there, it just tastes so raw and so harsh. And so basically with the blend that I've done, I've added actually dehydrated coconut milk. I've added dehydrated shallots, dehydrated garlic to make it a more well-rounded flavor. So you can basically just add it straight to cream and then taste. It should taste like a full-body kind of curry right off the bat without having to add kind of all the other things. There's dehydrated ginger in there, dehydrated garlic, all that stuff. So it's a more well-rounded flavor. Basically, then we have our Mexican spice, which I was going to add in the pan, but I got distracted by all the Yahoo questions. And so basically, we're going to add our mushrooms here. We don't need to put too much heat on them. They're pretty small, kind of thin mushrooms, so you want to just kind of, you always want to start with hot pans. And whenever I'll talk about cooking at my mom's house again is, at home, I know it's hard because as soon as you get a pan really, really hot and put some oil in there smoking, all the smoke alarms go off. But at the same time, it's worth it because you have to use high heat for certain things. You can't just throw in mushrooms in a medium hot pan because as soon as you put them in there, all the water is going to drip out of them, and then you're never going to get any color or you're never going to get any caramelization on them. And that goes with meats and fish and everything. You need to get that kind of that flavor in there. So I'm just going to add a bit of salt. Part of the flavor with especially roasting meats and things and fish is it's the roasting that actually gives it the flavor. It's not the actual naturally just the fish or meat. It's the flavor you get when you roast. All right, so we got our mushrooms there, and then I'll show you how the sea asparagus is literally going to go in and kind of go out in all within kind of 20 seconds. So we're going to put our sea asparagus in there, kind of toss it around. You definitely don't need to add any more salt to the sea asparagus because that's kind of what it's all about. I'm going to grab myself a towel here.
We have a question about how you treat spices. Is that all right?
Sure.
To your straight in the middle here. I'm going to stand up.
Hey.
Right there.
Dale, I want to ask you about using the grinder if you use, for your own spices.
Yeah, I'm doing 6 different grinders as well as blends, and I do like the grinders. I think some of the grinders are great, and others are hit and miss. I think when it comes to herbs, when you add herbs into the grinders and stuff, I find that all the dry herbs that you get in a lot of those things, they all taste exactly the same, and they don't taste very good, and they don't smell very good. I think if you go home and you smell all your spices right now, pretty much all of them are going to smell the exact same. So look for ones that don't have a lot of the dry herbs in there. They're more spice driven rather than herb driven. But the grinders are great. I think you just got to go with a company that sells a lot and stuff, because a lot of the spices you buy, especially the ground spices, they're literally been ground for 2-3 years, and all that flavor is just going away. And so just read the side of it and see how much other crap is in there too. I mean, you don't want all those you want basically just what it's supposed to taste like, which is the spices and a little bit of the herbs. You don't want all those kind of other weird chemicals and different things that you don't actually know what they mean on the bottle. But the grinders are great, I think. I think they're a good product. Thanks. So we have our mushrooms and our sea asparagus here. We have our scallops here. We have, where's my little pot? So I'm going to basically take a couple scoops of the corn succotash, and the bacon and all that kind of stuff is in there. I don't think I brought my spoon. And then we'll take a bit of custard here. As you can see, it's nice and thick there. And that's going to basically kind of bind it. I'm going to add a bit of water because that's even got too thick. The other thing too is I don't cook with a lot of stock. I don't, for my risotto and different things like that at the restaurant, I actually use water because I'd rather rely on all the other things that are going in it rather than chicken stock. I think a lot of restaurants and a lot of places just use so much chicken stock, everything, and veal stock, and very strong sauces and stuff, and I think it takes away from all the food. So I try to use water for predominantly everything I do, unless it's, certain things do need stock, but I try to stay away from it as much as possible. I like light food. Everything I try to do, even my menu in the wintertime, I find is very, very light. I want you to be able to eat multiple things. Whenever I go and have a really long, drawn-out French meal, I always have nightmares. I wake up in the middle of the night having nightmares because everything's so rich and everything, and so I think your body kind of goes crazy, or at least mine does. All right, so we have our corn succotash. I think you can kind of see that. See, it's kind of lightly loose, but then you got all those flavors in there, and then the corn is just a nice, it's almost like a cream corn, but a little bit fancier. All right, so we have our saute pan here, or scallop semolina if you don't have it, because it gives a nice little crust there, and it's a nice way of building a nice little crust. Sometimes scallops can be a little bit difficult to saute. And also what I do is essentially this is one scallop, and it goes kind of like that. I always cut my scallops this way because you get these beautiful, nice fat scallops, and they are beautiful and they look great and everything. But when you try to go and cook them, they're not going to be cooked. You're going to have to cook them and cook them and cook them, and then by the time you get them hot inside or cooked, they already taste like rubber, and all the texture's kind of gone. So I cut them that way. So then all you have to do, literally, is cook them for maybe kind of 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and they're done. And then that way you only flip the one side for it, just kiss the pan and take them out. And then that way you have all the texture of kind of a just lightly cooked scallop, but you get the nice crust on the other side. So I think this pan should.
We have a question from a young person in the front row on your right here, Chef.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for an aspiring chef?
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you want to, it depends. I mean, if you just love to cook at home and stuff, then just keep researching and keep eating out and stuff. But if you want to be a chef, I always say, you know, I think the culinary schools are great and everything like that. I just think, get a job first. Get a job in kind of one of, you know, a reliable, good chain restaurant that has good structure and all that stuff. Or if you know somebody, get a job somewhere. But find out that you're going to like it first. You know, don't go and spend $40,000 to go to a culinary school for a year, waste you or your parents' money and in a year of your life, and then realize that you don't really want to give up your weekends, holidays, birthdays, everything else that necessarily normal people get to do, because this is one of those jobs where when everyone else is going to Vegas for the weekend or having a birthday or a family reunion, you don't get to go. You can't just go to your chef and say, I need 3 days off to go to a family reunion. He's going to say, well, yeah, or she's going to say, yeah, well, so do I, but you don't get it. So find out if you love it, because it's one of those things, it's got to be the worst job in the world if you don't love it, because you're being generally treated sometimes not overly well depending on where you work, and the hours are long, the pay is horrible, and it's really not what it seems on TV. I mean, before I went on Top Chef, I worked 12 years straight of getting paid very poorly, working for people like Gordon Ramsay and getting yelled at and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying really making it sound very undesirable here, but if you love it, it really is a very fulfilling job. But it's one of those things that I think it's 11% of people that go to culinary school actually stay in the business, and so it's one of those things that I think it's a rude awakening when people come out of culinary school and realize, holy, I really do got to work 14 hours, and they really don't care if I'm tired, and they really don't care if, you know, if service is going well. What they care about is the food getting up and the customer being happy. And so if you're willing to do that, then I would say go for it. So you can see the pan's nice and hot. Smoking hot, basically. I'm just going to pop those in there, the scallops, with that cornmeal crust. And you want it to be hot, and then you kind of just take it off and let readjust. Make sure you're not going to scorch them or anything. And you can put them back on the heat. Should have brought my spoon. And when you are sauteing the scallops too, you don't want to play with them too much. You just want to kind of check them, just kind of peek underneath, because you're kind of forming essentially a crust on them with the cornmeal. All right, those are starting to look good here. Got our plate here. Made a real mess over here. So, because the corn is sweet and the scallops are naturally sweet, we're going to add a bit of lemon juice to our succotash, just to kind of counterbalance that. We don't want it all to be sweet, sweet, sweet. Our scallops, you can see, have a really nice golden color there. Like that, as you can see. And then I'm that's it. I'm taking them out. Because the other side, they've been at room temperature for a good half an hour, and so you don't have to worry about them being cold in the middle. And by kind of kissing the one side and cooking the other side, you've got lots of temperature on there. You don't need to worry.
We've got a question relating to Mr. Ramsay, Chef Ramsay, if that's right with you.
Sure. I love talking about Chef Ramsay.
What's the most important thing you took from working with Gordon Ramsay?
lesson-wise?
Easily standards. Standards. It's all about standards with him. It's imperative. I mean, when you set your standard or you set your bar, you do a dish and you say, okay, this is how it's going to be. If you don't hold to that, and if it doesn't matter what the circumstance is, if someone called in sick, or if someone had to leave, or if the service is going downhill, it doesn't really matter. You set the standards, and those are the standards you always keep. It doesn't matter if you have to. It doesn't matter what you have to do, basically. Gordon will go to any length to make sure it goes right, and he's all about diligence and all about, you can't just sit back and just expect things to go right. You have to attack them, and so I would definitely say standards. He's just absolute king of standards, and he doesn't care if whose feelings he hurts along the way, which, you know, is the right attitude in some ways and not in the other. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's his name and it's his food, so it's about passion. He has angry passion. I think I have a little bit more happy passion, but it comes down to the English in general. They're pretty angry bunch after working there for so many years. But yeah, I would just say it comes down to diligence and passion, and that's what you have to have. And then, you know, it's not just about, and what I learned from Danielle and from Gordon, it's not just the food you have to worry about. You have to worry about building a team, leading a team. It matters from the time you come into the restaurant, from the hostess stand, so how you were greeted at the front, to how clean the bathrooms are in the back. So it's a total package. A restaurant has to be a total package from start to finish, and it's a lot of work. And so that's why I think you see people getting so flared up with tempers and stuff, because you put your life into it all the time. So I've just added some parsley, some lemon juice, some lemon zest. And I'm just gonna put that basically in kind of the center of the plate. Just like that. All right, so then we have our scallops, which we're just gonna kind of put just on here. And at the restaurant, I actually do a scallop jus, which I take all the scraps from the scallops and I roast them off, and then I add a light chicken jus and make a nice roasted scallop sauce. But we don't have time for that. So here we have our smoked Matsutake mushrooms. We're just gonna nicely put them around there. And then we have our sea asparagus, which we're just gonna put on top of there. And that's gonna add a nice little bit of salt and a little bit of crunch. The mushrooms are nice and smoky and have a meaty flavor to them. The cornmeal is gonna give a little bit of a crust with those sweet scallops. And then underneath you have all those spices, the corn and the peppers and all that kind of stuff. And so essentially, and then I have to finish a little bit of basil oil, which I'm also starting to do now too, and I put them in these nice little droppers. So when you are at home and stuff, and I find like things like truffle oil and a lot of those things, they become too potent, and when you try to put them on the plate with a bottle, then you spill them all over the place. So I like putting everything in little droppers, so that way you can kind of drop it around. I think you guys can see that dish, and that's kind of the final dish there.
We have a question for you when you're ready about your own lifestyle. Right back here, Chef. Right in the back here. We're looking at a little bit behind the scenes with the chef with this question.
Sure.
Hi, Chef. Since you love fine dining, I was just wondering what your favorite comfort food is?
I eat McDonald's just like everyone else with my son Aiden, and so yeah, I mean, I eat everything. I don't eat fancy every night. People always think like when you work in a fine dining restaurant or even at home, they're like, wow, you must eat great, and it's usually quite the opposite. I mean, I eat family meal just with all my cooks and all my front of the house staff. It's usually a pasta with some scraps from some pork scraps and whatever else, so I'm not fussy. As long as it tastes good, I definitely don't eat fine dining very often, maybe once or twice a year. But my favorite thing that makes me feel really special when I eat is literally pork and sauerkraut. I just love sauerkraut and pork and mustard together. It's one of those things that just makes me happy, so yeah. Yeah, so that's the finished dish, and I wish I had 300 of them to give out, but unfortunately I don't. I'm happy to try to answer any questions or meet anybody on the side of the stage here when we're done. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, and why don't we all give a huge thank you to Chef Dale Mackay. Chef Dale has been so kind as to take a few minutes to have a short meet and greet with some folks. He's going to be sitting at the table in the front, so if anyone would like to meet and greet with the chef, we're going to start the line right about here, and it's going to be going that way. So whoever's at the front here will be starting first.
Go ahead, but
The man in the